Welcome to Mark My Words, a show that searches for the fork in the road in life, the place where the turning point in the journey of entrepreneurship and life can be found. Let's meet each other at the crossroads on Mark My Words. When I see texts like somebody has been voted a Texas super lawyer 14 consecutive times, and every single year they have been eligible for that, that really gives me pause in a good way. And I know I'm in for a great conversation. And that's just scraping the surface when it comes to Brian Beckcom, who's the owner and trial lawyer at VB Attorneys. Oh my gosh, I mean, where can I even start? He played college basketball at Texas A&M, and this is like the perfect time of year for us to talk about that a little bit. He majored in computer science. He's been a lawyer since the late 90s, and he's had his own firm since 2003. And Brian, if I've got anything wrong on any of this, you can correct me, but that is what I see. And then I also just want to kind of name off some of the things that he specializes in because I thought off and on about becoming an attorney, but when I see that some of the things he deals with are like bus accidents, wrongful death, dangerous or defective products, oil field injuries, working like no way. Brian is probably much better suited for being a lawyer than I am for sure. And lucky for us, he's here to talk to us on Mark My Words. Brian, how you doing today?
Great to be here, Mark. I'm doing excellent. Thanks for asking. That was quite an introduction. I appreciate it.
I put a lot of thought into the introduction, and I know I could just have the guests do it themselves, and the guest knows themselves better than I do, but I always feel, for whatever reason, that I don't know. I just feel like getting creative and honoring the guests a little bit. And I don't know. It makes me feel like I have my own version of the Tonight Show. Like, I don't know. But
That's a reference that some people may not realize. You and I remember Johnny Carson and the Late Show and David Letterman and all that stuff. But some of the younger kids probably have no idea what we're talking about. The Late Show, what is that? You remember like it used to be when we were younger. It was a little bit risque to stay up after the news and Nightline to watch at one of the late shows because they always had kind of the more cutting edge jokes and more, like I said, the more risque jokes. So, I mean, looking back on that, it looks so innocuous, but at the time, I remember, watching stuff on David Letterman. One of my favorite David Letterman skits was when he used to drop things off of buildings. You remember that? That used to be that was like one
yeah.
of the funniest things ever. So, yeah, we may be aging ourselves a little bit, or at least I'm aging myself a little bit. But yeah,
No.
it's great to be here, and like I said, thank you for the very generous introduction.
Well, I'm aging myself a little bit too. I mean, I'm not getting any younger. I got the grays in my beard at this point, so I'm creeping further along. And I do remember the days of Johnny Carson and Arsenio
Yeah.
Hall,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
all
Arsenio Hall for sure.
all those guys. And I was in kind of the same boat where it was like I really want to stay up because it's hilarious. You know, there's a lot of funny things going on, but it took until like the early 90s before I was finally old enough. So uh,
Yeah.
that you can kind of ballpark guess what my age is around there. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s, so I don't I don't really care if anybody knows how old I am. But um, anyway, I got you here, and I want to start this off by talking about your path a little bit because you got a very interesting path. You majored in computer science and then transitioned into becoming a lawyer. Did you know that you wanted to major in computer science? Did you always kind of
No,
think in the back of your head about law? How'd you get to where you are?
the answer to both those questions is no. So when I was in high school, I had one thing that I cared about, like literally one thing, and that was basketball. I spent 4 straight years, and I'm not exaggerating, playing basketball every single day. I would, when I traveled, I would literally carry basketball on the plane with me. I
Wow.
mean, I was completely and totally obsessed. And there's actually a pretty good story about that. Probably my number one male, actually not probably, my number one male role model in my life is my father. And there's a story behind that. He's had a little bit different upbringing than some people, but another one of the huge mentors in my life was my high school basketball coach, Clayton Brooks, who's still alive. And as a young man growing up in Texas, there were basically everybody played football and baseball. And this is in the late 80s, early 90s. Basketball was popular, but not nearly as popular. Like basketball was basically an off-season sport for football players. So, and then you either played baseball or ran track. But when I remember when I was in eighth grade, I was uh, I was doing layup lines in middle school, and this new high school basketball coach had just been hired, and he came down to the eighth grade to watch some of us play. And I was able to do at the time layups with my right hand and layups with my left hand, which was pretty unusual for an eighth grader. And the high school, and Clayton Brooks comes over there and he says, "Son, I think you have a ton of potential. I want you to play basketball for me." And for whatever reason, Mark, that hit me at the right time. That lit a fire under me that like burned brightly for 5 years. I mean, it was like somebody singled me out and showed me that they had some confidence and some faith in me, and that was, I mean, it was amazing. So I spent literally, I'm not exaggerating, every single day for 4 straight years playing basketball. Back then, where there was no AAU, we did a little bit of summer league ball, but it was mainly pickup ball. You go, if you win, you stay on the court. If you lose, you got to wait another 30 minutes or 45 minutes to get back on. And we had a very, very, very good high school basketball team. We made the playoff 3 years in a row. We had the player of the year in the 4A, which is a pretty big division in Texas high schools. It's 5A now. Uh, all five of our starters played Division I basketball. I played Division I basketball at Texas A&M. So when I went to Texas A&M, that's what I did. I mean, I honestly did not have any clue what I wanted to do professionally, business wise. All I cared about was playing basketball. And then I get to college and I'm a general studies major, which means I just don't have a major. I'm just like kind of taking classes. You got to remember, this is 1990, 1991. The internet, nobody knew that the internet existed. There was no email, there was no text, there was no social media, none of that stuff. And I took a computer class or two and I said, man, this is super interesting. I really like this. I had one of the first email addresses in college anywhere in the country. But it was useless because nobody else had any emails. How you couldn't email people back and forth. I saw Internet Explorer before it was released by the government to Microsoft, and I saw Netscape. I saw all this stuff like early on. But anyway, I said, this is fun. I love this stuff. Like hacking on computers is super fun. So I was like, I'm going to major in computer science. Majored in computer science. I didn't know you had to take all these dang math classes, calculus, linear algebra, all. I mean, so I quite frankly struggled in math. I mean, I made B's, but I had to work really, really, really hard on the math. Uh, but I loved it. But then after about 4 years of this, I tell people, I say, I spent 4 years in college sitting behind a computer screen with a bunch of nerds. And I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. So I went to law school. And what do I do now? 25 years later, I sit behind a computer screen with a bunch of nerds. Like that's what we all do now, right? Um, but anyway, I really, really liked computer science. I still do today. I keep up with all the tech stuff. We can talk about all the AI or Bitcoin or blockchain or whatever you want to talk about technologically. Quantum computing. But really, I went to law school for a different reason. I went to law school basically for two reasons. I like to read and write and talk, number one. Number two, I like to help people. I get a big kick out of helping people. And so law school ended up to being perfect for what I like to do anyway. And then what's been really cool, Mark, is that every single lawyer uses computers and has for 20 years, but I'm 5 steps ahead of them typically. Like we were advertising on the internet, my firm was well before everybody else was. We were on YouTube. We're using AI in some very advanced ways. So people are like, computer science and law, that's weird. But interestingly enough, they actually do have a lot of synergies, and there's a lot of things that cross over. Plus, engineering and law both teach you how to think a certain way. And then you put my philosophy degree on there, which also teaches you how to think a certain way. And I feel like just by pure luck, pure luck, I have a super well-rounded education, and also it's a super well-rounded education that's relevant to the times we live in today. I mean, I'm 52 years old, and I know more about computers and philosophy and law than most of the young kids do. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and write computer programs in hexadecimal anymore like I used to. You don't even do that anymore. I mean, now AI can write computer programs I mean, the computer programs. I saw something last week which I thought was super insightful. You know what the new programming language is?
No.
English.
Wow.
It's prompting AIs in English or whatever your native language is to write computer programs. Like that's the new programming language. So, the better you get at understanding how to prompt AIs, they call it prompt engineering, which just is a fancy way of saying, I'm going to get this thing to do what I want it to do. I think there's actually some benefit to knowing how AIs work underneath the hood, especially large language models, in order to be able to prompt them to get the output you want. But yeah, that's kind of a long version of how I went from computer science and philosophy to law.
You said a lot of things here. I hope that I can cover because you said a couple of things and like, oh, I want to talk about that. Let me see if I can re-rack my brain. So, you talked about how much of an impact your coaches had on you playing basketball. I am a fellow, certainly not to the level that you played, but I played for like my junior high team and I started playing in like third grade, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that I was like something special, but I felt like I was pretty athletic. And you talked about doing layups left and right. I could do that, and it did not impress my coaches in the least. So I really wish that I would have had your coach because even if I wouldn't have made it onto a college team, it sounds like they were very supportive of you. And it sounds like that kind of support made a big difference in your development in life. And that was something that was sorely lacking in my life. And you can speak to that a little bit. I'm sure you have something positive to say because that sounds great to me, all the support that you got.
Yeah, I've had, tons of really good role models and mentors in my life, but the three that really stand out in my mind at 52 are, like I said, my dad, my high school basketball coach. Then there's a guy named Ben Glass, who's a lawyer in Virginia, who's run a bunch of, who basically has taught me how to market my business. Learned a ton of lessons from all three of them, but I can make it really short. The number one lesson I learned from my father is don't quit. Don't quit. The number
I
one
love
lesson
it.
I learned, yeah, the number one lesson I learned from my high school basketball coach is if you work hard enough, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. And Ben Glass taught me that when you are design, what most people do is they have a job and then they design their life around their job. He said you need to do the opposite. Figure out what you want your life to look like, and then design your work around your life. So don't quit. If you work hard, you can achieve whatever you want, and design your life before you design your work. three major lessons I got. And, you know, when you're playing sports in any level, having somebody that shows some confidence in you, like some that sees something in you that maybe you don't see in yourself, that is one of the most powerful things, at least in my life, that I've ever experienced. Because it like I said earlier, it really lights a fire in you, like an internal fire. You know, I mean, there's two kinds of motivation. There's extrinsic or outside motivation, and there's intrinsic or interior motivation. And I'm here to tell everybody the intrinsic motivation is far more effective and it lasts much longer. So if somebody's yelling at you to get stuff done, that's extrinsic motivation. If you have a deadline set by somebody else, that's extrinsic motivation. If you're trying to impress somebody, your boss, that's extrinsic motivation. That'll work, but it's not going to work all the time and it's not going to work over time. Intrinsic motivation is when somebody lights that fire in you where you want to do it yourself. So you want to be, for example, I do jujitsu every day at 52 because I want to be really good at it. I'm not doing it to impress the Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, although I do want to impress him. I mean, make no mistake about that. But that's not the number one reason I'm doing it. I'm doing it for me. I have interior reasons to do it. It was the same thing with basketball. Let me ask you this question, Mark, and I'll ask your audiences too. Do you think that a high school basketball coach could get a player to literally play 365 days a year, bring a ball on a plane, no matter where he travels, find a court, dribble up and down the street for an hour with your left hand, just by telling him to do that, or yelling at him, or getting on him, or pushing him? Maybe for a little while, but that's not going to last very long. The way you get people to do that is you make them want to do it themselves. Like you give them that intrinsic motivation. And so, you know, when I woke up in the morning when I was in high school, the first thing I thought about was basketball. I wasn't thinking about my coach yelling at me. I was thinking about this is for me. Like I want to do this to prove to myself that I can do it. So yeah, that was a huge, huge. I was very, very lucky, and I tell you, I found out since then. I thought when my kids went to high school, all their high school coaches would be just like Coach Brooks. Let me tell you, they're not. I mean,
No,
I now realize what a unicorn Coach Brooks was because most high school coaches are nice people, but they're not very good coaches, and they dial it in. I mean, they're just, it's not as. And I'll tell you the other thing about Coach Brooks, he set the example. He worked so hard and he was so intense and he cared so much about winning and he cared so much about his players. And I don't see that with a lot of high school coaches today. What I see is people just dialing it in, just doing kind of the bare minimum that they can get by. So anyway,
no, that was terrific. I mean, yeah, I not all coaches are like the coach that you had, and I don't necessarily want to dwell on bad high school coaches or whatever, but I definitely understand that being motivated and doing something for yourself. That's what this show and everything I've been pushing myself to do has been about. I mean, I got a lot of positive reinforcement. Like, I used to go to an event called LinkedIn Local, and I had a lot of people just telling me, just talking about, where we're at in life, and a lot of conversation 8, 9 years ago was about making your own content. And I had quite a few people say you should make your own content. And at first, I'm just like me. Like, I don't have the right sound, I don't have the right look. And I feel like what I've learned since that time is that I'm actually doing what I've always wanted to do. And the thing that was really always missing was not so much somebody pushing me or yelling at me to do whatever. It was just that support. Support goes a long way. And I don't have anybody, calling to check whether I'm doing all this. I mean, it's all me. You know how we kind of had some information across before recording. And if I'm not motivated and not really wanting to do this, maybe I just give up or whatever and we don't meet. But I'm like, no, I see that he's there and we're going to do this. And I feel like it's that motivation. Like, I always tell people, I don't know where the fire in my belly to be motivated and to do all the things I've done in my life. I don't know where it even came from because I don't feel like I've ever been like really supported. It's like I was born with a cleft lip and palate, and I always tell people about the first grade story where it was my class's turn to read and to run the mess, quote unquote. And I was given somehow, like, it was a long time ago, so I don't remember how I got the job of reading like a certain part in the mass, but I got it somehow. And there was like a nun who was against it. So my mom had to like go to the back for me, and I wound up doing it and then getting a lot of pats on the back. So I don't know if I learned something off of that or somewhere else, but I've always just felt a need and a drive to prove myself, not only to the world, but to myself as well. And I just love hearing stories like yours. And that's one of the reasons that I do this, because there might be another person like me out there who's not getting the support that wants to run a business or do something like, podcasts like we do, but they're not getting the support. It is possible to get that support somewhere.
I think I know where you got your fire. Let me suggest something to you.
Yeah,
It's the cleft palate. And like that's an obstacle that you've had it, I assume, your whole life, pretty much your whole life. And it's something that you probably looked at when you were younger as a very negative thing.
I did.
And it's probably caused you to question, are you good enough? Are people going to pay attention to you? Stuff like that. And, I can tell you exactly where my fire came from. When I was 5 years old, my brother was three. My mom got diagnosed with terminal breast cancer. She was given 6 months to live, and she made it 5 years. And she went through hell. Double mastectomy, broke her, lost all her hair, grew hair in other places, broke her hips multiple times as a 30-year-old woman. And I saw my dad go through that. Then she died when I was 10 and my brother was 8. So I was raised by a single father. And I wanted to prove to people that just because I had only one parent and just because I lost my mom that I could still make it. I wanted to prove to people that I could do it. And so, childhood trauma, whether it's a disability like you have, and I don't say disability in a bad way, but growing up with a cleft palate, growing up where you're missing an arm. Like I went to high school with a kid named Trey Woods who had one arm and ended up playing college football and was a great baseball player too, like unbelievable guy. But the point is, most of us have obstacles that we have to overcome, and a lot of us just don't overcome them, right? But you clearly have, right? And so have I. And I think those it's the very fact that you have that it's not easy for you. It's the very fact that you have had some challenges that puts the fire in your belly, right? Like, one of the big things, Mark, that has been a big concern of mine until recently is, I grew up where if my dad gave me $10 on a Friday night to go buy Dairy Queen, that was a lot of money. Like that was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have, most of my clothes were cheap. My first car cost $1,000. I didn't have nice stuff. I mean, I had everything I needed, but I didn't have extra stuff. My kids have everything they want. I live in a multi-million-dollar house in one of the richest neighborhoods in Houston. They all drive very nice cars, have good-looking boyfriends or girlfriends. Where are they going to get their fire from? That's what I've worried about, like for a long time. And you know what? both of my boys are in college now, and they're in the Corps of Cadets at Texas A&M. It's one of the hardest things in the country for a college student to do. That's where they're getting their fire from. And my daughter plays two varsity sports, and I'm confident that she's got some fire too. But my dad used to tell me, so let's flip this around, Mark. Like you and I have had some difficulties when we were younger. We had to overcome. My dad used to always tell me, he said the people he respected the most were the people that didn't have anything and made something of themselves, and the people that were had everything and made something of themselves. And it wasn't until 10 or so years ago that that really struck home to me because, see, when you're given everything, it is so easy to not do anything worthwhile. It's so easy to just rest on your laurels. Like I see all these guys my age in my neighborhood who got all their money from their parents and they're complete losers. Like they just all they do is drink and hang out and make fun of poor people, basically. I mean, like, and and then I see super people that have came from great wealth that work so hard. Like one of my best friends, okay, one of my best friends. We were in each other's wedding. He's a guy from Dallas. He runs a hedge fund now. He grew up his dad was a very successful lawyer. He's very, he's not billionaire rich, but I mean, he drove a Dodge Stealth sports car in 1992 as an 18-year-old. And he could have done anything he wanted. He had all the money he needed, blah, blah, blah. And what did he do? He joined the Corps of Cadets with me, and he literally picked out the hardest things you could do. Like everything that was hard, that's what he did. And it's so impressive to me because he didn't have to do that, right? So people that don't have the kind of advantages that make something of themselves, that's awesome. Everybody knows about that. But what about the people that are given all these advantages? You know how easy it is to not take advantage of that. So those people really impress me as well.
I can think of one or two people who, and I'm not calling anybody out here, but as you talk about those that have a lot, but don't really do much with it or need kind of, a push or are only doing it just because they have some, they're given a lot from their parents or whatever. I mean, that's also not to play comparison games or anything, but that motivates me as well to kind of like work extra hard and to prove myself and to just elevate myself in my own life. And you're talking about a billion things I'd love to touch on, but I know our time is fairly limited. So, gosh, I really would like to touch on more of that, but maybe you can jump ahead and tell us what made you decide to like open your own firm and just the process of doing that and getting that started.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I've learned in life is oftentimes the things you think you want are not really, in retrospect, the best things for you. Like things might, maybe you don't get what you want. Maybe it turns out to be better. And so when I made really good grades in law school, I went to the University of Texas Law School, which is a top 20 law school, or at least it was at the time. So I kind of had my pick of jobs, and I have no lawyers in the family. I had no lawyer mentors. I didn't know there was nobody I could call and say, "Hey, what do I do?" Of course, all the law firms are saying you got a computer science degree, you should be a patent lawyer. And so I asked a couple patent lawyers, "Hey, people are telling me I should be a patent lawyer. What's that like?" "Oh, it's like writing a research paper every week." "Oh my God, that sounds effing terrible. No, thank you." So, so I really had, I didn't know the names of any law firms. I didn't know what it meant to be a civil litigator on the defense versus the plaintiff side. I didn't know what a tort was. I didn't know any of this stuff. And so I went and just kind of did what everybody else at University of Texas Law School who made good grades did. I just went to work for an enormous firm. When I graduated, 300 lawyers. It used to be called Fulbright and Jaworski, but they've since merged with some other firms, so it's kind of got a different name. But it was this huge firm, like, And we represented the biggest companies in the world, like huge Fortune 500 billion-dollar companies. And I loved the people that I worked with and I learned a lot, but I hated what I was doing. Like I hated representing AIG insurance company against a family who had lost a father. Like it was not fulfilling to me at all. And there's a lot of people that are like, it doesn't have to be fulfilling. It's just a job. Not me. I'm sorry. I'm not wired that way. So I remember I had this case where a black guy named he was a roofer. His name was Eric LeGrone. He fell off a roof and got hurt. And I represented the company who was clearly negligent. And we went to trial and I got my butt kicked. So I had to eventually we had to give this guy the money that he had gotten in the settlement. I remember giving this guy the check and thinking, I'm happy I'm doing this. I like him. And I remember thinking, uh-oh, I'm on the wrong side of this equation. Like if I'm happy when I lose that this guy's getting money, maybe I need to switch. And so there was a very prominent lawyer who opened up a firm in Houston, or opened up a branch of his firm in Houston. I thought for sure I was going to get this job. I applied for it and I didn't get it. And I spent the evening, I think I was 30, 32, on my couch, literally crying. I was so upset. Right. Well, in retrospect, that turned out to be the best thing. I'm so glad I didn't get that job. That guy ended up getting indicted federally. The
Oh,
whole firm blew up. Uh, all the personnel changed. And so, like I said earlier, some of the times the things that you think you really want really aren't the best things for you. And that was one of them. I'm so grateful I didn't get that job because this past year was 20-year anniversary of VB Attorneys. I've got a great law partner. I've got a great people that I work with, and I get to do whatever the hell I want. Like I have total freedom, really. I mean, obviously, if a judge needs me to be in court or my clients need me, I got to do that. But other than that, I get to set my hours. I get to decide who I represent, who I don't. I get to set my rate. I get to decide who I work with. I get to decide all that stuff. And if I would have gotten the job that I thought I wanted, none of that would be true, right? And it's kind of the same thing. Like, you know, I look back and I think I graduated from Texas A&M in computer science in 1996. Had I gone to Silicon Valley, I'd be a billionaire right now, probably. I mean, that was like the best time in history to graduate with that degree. But I wouldn't have the three beautiful kids I have, and I wouldn't met my wife, and I wouldn't trade. There's no amount of money in the world that she could give me for to trade 30 seconds of time with my daughter, let alone all three of my kids and my wife. So again, I maybe that, oh yeah, you could have done this, you could have done that, but it usually tends. I tell you, this is the bottom line, Mark. I've found out that usually there's some sort of karmic energy in the universe, and usually it kind of all comes back in a good way. Like I try to remind myself when bad stuff is happening, you know what? That probably something better is going to happen because of this, right? I'll give you a good example of that. My oldest son was a phenomenal basketball player in high school until about his sophomore year when he just lost interest, just did not care. And I pushed him, and I was like not happy about it because I felt like he wasn't getting the most out of his potential. But and he didn't even play his senior year of high school, and I was not happy about that. I didn't really say much to him, but I wasn't happy about that. But you know what? He made the right decision because instead of playing basketball at some Division III school and then quitting after a year and floating around, he joined the Corps of Cadets at Texas A&M, just like I did, my brother, my dad, my grandfather, which was a way better decision. So again, like the things that you think at the time maybe aren't good, usually are for the best.
I totally agree with you. And I think everything happens for a reason. And I totally agree with the karmic energy of the universe that plays a part. And I'm not going to get too philosophical on all of that, but I definitely agree with you. And I know that there have been things in my life that, job opportunities and other things that have happened or not happened. And I, used to wonder, oh, I wonder what my life would have been like if that happened or this happened. But, you know, I kind of like the reality that I have today. I have a really awesome day job, which I can't complain about. It's with a company that I always dreamed of being with. And the story of how I got there was I wasn't even looking for them. They found me, and, my boss, we talked and interviewed. He was amazing and wound up getting the job without even exerting. So there were like a billion other opportunities with this company that I put so much time and effort and even drove 4 hours once to interview at their headquarters, and nothing ever worked out. I put in all that energy, and I'm not saying you shouldn't put in effort and energy and work hard, because you totally should, because it does pay off. But sometimes the universe, things just happen for a reason, and it's just funny how things work out, because there's some things that happened in my hometown that if I had thought differently or chosen differently, I may not have experienced any of the cool stuff that I have done in my life. So for me, I try very hard to just accept, the way things have worked out. I know they worked out for a reason. I know my heart is into what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to do the best that I can. And I feel like that attitude has, while I'm not exactly 100% where I want to be, I'm definitely in a way better spot than I would be with any different attitude.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, it's kind of a tough balance. Like uh, people that are motivated, people that are driven, want to make things happen in the world, right? Like I want to, Steve Jobs has a great quote. He just wants to, he said, I just wanted to make a dent in the universe, like just a dent. I just want to have some impact, some positive impact. But on the other hand, you have to be mature enough to realize that you really can't control the outcome most of the time. And so, and the more you try to control the outcome, the more stress and anxiety you'll give yourself. Like the Buddhist, and I'm not talking necessarily about the religious aspects of Buddhism. I'm talking more about the practical day-to-day operating manual that is Buddhism. Will tell you that the source of most pain is the desire to control things or to avoid unpleasant things, which is just another way of saying control your experience. And so what I think the best approach is kind of a middle path between I'm going to work as hard as I can to get the results I want, but then once I've done that, I'm going to let the outcome kind of happen on its own. I'm not going to try to control the outcome. If I don't like it, I'm going to try to roll with the punches, and I'm going to trust that things are going to work out okay. And that's tough for a lawyer because like I want to win every single case for my clients. Every single one of them I want to win, believe me, deeply. But when it's a jury deciding, ultimately it's 12 people that decide, not me. All I can do is present the best case I can to those jurors, and then they're going to decide what they think is best and what's not best. And sometimes I win. Most of the time I win. But I tell you what, when I do lose, I learn way more than when I win. Like every time I win a case, it's like, oh, you're the best. You're awesome. I'm writing myself notes. Oh, you just keep doing what you're doing. I learn nothing. And when I lose, it's like 10 pay. Do this better, do this better, do this better, do this better, do this better. So in a weird way, quote, losing makes me better. It's the same thing like I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu now. Every time I get submitted, I'm getting better because I'm learning something. Whereas people with these huge egos that come into jujitsu, they get submitted a couple times and then they just quit because they can't. Their ego can't handle that. Um, but yeah, so I think it's a focus on the process, focus on what you can control, and then just let it go and let the chips fall where they may.
Well, I'm going to focus on my process and we can talk a little bit more after I ask you this, but I'm going to just put it out there right now and ask you, how can people find you, work with you, and listen to your podcasts?
Brian Beckham Lawyer on Instagram is probably where I'm most active. BrianBeckham.org is the website for the podcast and my writing. And then VB Attorneys, that's V as in Victor, B as in Brian. VB Attorneys is my law firm. I have a little bit of an unusual spelling. It's Beckcom, Beckcom. Most people leave off the second C or they do Beckham. So BrianBeckham.org, Brian Beckham Lawyer on Instagram. I'm on all the social media sites. I'm also on YouTube. Just type in Brian Beckham and I'll believe me, as a computer science major, I come up everywhere.
Well, I understand the whole spelling of your name and leaving a C off or spelling it different because
Yeah.
being MARC, Mark, I
Yeah.
have my battles with my name like
And
constantly.
Schmidt. I mean, probably some people just say Shimtd, like they probably leave off the C or, put
Uh,
it the wrong place.
Sometimes they try to spell it with like two T's, and I've had it all. So
Yeah.
and speaking of having it all, one thing that crept back into my mind from the beginning of the conversation is back in the early 90s, you could have sent me an email because I was on Prodigy, if you
Nice.
remember them.
Yeah,
I
sure.
had a handy computer, and I was one of the first people that I knew who had a computer and could
Yeah.
actually
Remember
get.
those days?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's like you had a little magic in your fingers. Like you could like type things in and make this thing do stuff. I think I was B Beckham at tamu.edu. So I had an edu domain.
Yeah,
I think,
I mean I had EDU domains obviously by the late 90s people were getting on board more, but who
yeah.
knows what my prodigy name was? I couldn't even tell you.
Nice.
So, I mean, I wish we had more time, but I think we're running out of some time. I want to give you some time to do your next thing. Brian Beckham, I mean, my
Mark, it's been
goodness,
a pleasure, man. Yeah, thank you. I've really
you
enjoyed this.
no, I enjoyed this conversation tremendously, and I mean, you're the host of Lessons for Leaders with Brian Beckham. You got your own business. You're a lawyer. You're a philosopher, computer scientist, and how you're extremely wise. So I appreciate you being here. This was amazing, and yeah, all the best in the future. And I'm Mark Schmidt. This was Mark My Words. Thanks for listening. This was Brian Beckham, and I will see you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to go on a journey with me into entrepreneurship and life on Mark My Words. If you would like to learn more about me and the show, you can find me on LinkedIn at Mark Schmidt or connect with me on Instagram at Nimrod79. Video episodes of Mark My Words, as well as other content, can also be found on the Mark My Words YouTube page. Entrepreneurship can be quite the roller coaster ride. It can be a bit isolating and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be that way. Let's meet here next time at the crossroads on another episode of Mark My Words.